Lee Jackson is here with me. You can follow me on Twitter at Paul Harris Show and follow the radio station at 550 KTRS and download our free KTRS app and listen to us on your smartphone anywhere in the world. Last night, 14 GOP candidates gathered in New Hampshire for what they're calling a candidates forum. This is not the same as the debate that'll be on the Fox News channel on Thursday night. That, in fact, will only include 10 candidates, but 14 of them showed up last night for this event in Manchester, New Hampshire, and our Brad Milkey from ABC News was there. Hi, Brad. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing just fine. So the one missing candidate, I understand, was Donald Trump, right?
That's right. This was a debate, not a debate, a forum put together by the New Hampshire Union Leader. That's the leading paper in New Hampshire. Because people in New Hampshire and Iowa sort of getting ticked off that Fox got to decide who these 10 candidates would be in Thursday's debate. New Hampshire and Iowans are used to deciding who's in or who's out. So they organized this. Donald Trump said, if you don't endorse me, New Hampshire Union Leader, if you don't endorse me, I'm not going to take part in your forum. So he was the big void in the party last night.
Oh, that's unusual for Donald Trump to act that way. Sorry, I can't resist. Tell me what the candidates did do. Did they get on stage and talk to each other and have any kind of conversation, or was this one at a time making their campaign speeches?
That's right. It was a one-by-one forum. At one at a time in rapid-fire succession, candidates would come on stage, get a few questions from moderator Jack Heath, and they'd basically answer as many as they could in their allotted 5 minutes before they would move on to the next person. Somebody comes up, somebody comes down. And then they also had 3 senators, Marco Rubio, Rand Paul, and Ted Cruz joining via satellite. They were in Washington for a Senate vote.
Yeah. Okay. So how did the candidates do, considering the circumstances?
Well, there was really no wow moment, and maybe that's because Donald Trump wasn't there. Republicans seemed like they were not trying to attack each other. Instead, they were just laying out their first case. I think a lot of them were treating this as their introduction to the American public. And so there really was no wow moment that would stand out, although several candidates, especially those who you won't be seeing on Thursday, trying to swing up a little bit and make their case. Carly Fiorina really laying into Hillary Clinton. You also heard strong words from Lindsey Graham and Bobby Jindal.
Okay. Now, when you talk about Thursday night and how some of these candidates won't be there, how will Fox make that decision? Do we know yet? Because they haven't made public exactly what the criteria will be.
Well, they are doing that later today. They are telling candidates who's in and who's out. It kind of reminds you of Selection Sunday for the NCAA tournament, right? People who are on the bubble right now, seeds number 9 and 10, Chris Christie and John Kasich, probably anxiously awaiting to get confirmation that they're in fact going to be on this national stage.
Are they using it, the polls that they have actually taken, the most popular? Is that how they're doing it?
They're saying that they're going to use the 5 most recent respectable polls, and they won't say what methodology really qualifies you to be a respectable poll. So a lot of people sort of raising their eyebrows wondering, well, hey, like, which polls are you going to use? Are you just going to make it up as you go along, or do you have a secret formula that you guys are working off of?
Sounds to me like Roger Ailes is going to pick the 10, and then he's going to figure out which polls do we have that will match what I've picked.
Well, it might get tricky because, a lot of Republicans wouldn't want Donald Trump to be in the debate, but right now he is the consensus #1 person in all the polls nationwide and in New Hampshire. A new poll yesterday found him leapfrogging ahead of Scott Walker and Jeb Bush, so you can't do much about that.
Now, you say he wasn't at this forum last night because of his battles with the
paper.
Manchester Union Leader. Did his name come up? Did other people comment at all about some of the things he's been saying recently?
Nobody really brought him up. In fact, that was rather surprising to a few people. Instead, the big unifier of the night was Hillary Clinton. People could not wait to jump on Hillary Clinton. Carly Fiorina called her a liar. Lindsey Graham promised voters that he spoke Clintonese from his days in Congress. So people really going after her and President Obama.
And they didn't go after each other?
No, they really tried to stay away from hitting each other, and I think that was probably a strategic move in that a lot of them are just for the first time being seen by the American public. Ben Carson said, a lot of you probably don't know who I am. And I'd imagine that goes for a lot of the candidates. So they didn't want to be perceived as negative.
Absolutely. I think that's one of the reasons that Trump continues to lead in these polls, pure name recognition. Because a lot of these people, while they may be people who the Fox News audience might know, Ben Carson certainly has gotten plenty of time there, as have some of the others. The average voter, who I contend won't be paying attention to any of this for another year or so, they have no idea who some of these people are. Did anybody make a breakthrough last night and represent themselves well enough that could change?
You know, we're looking for that moment, and I don't think we found one. I think I don't think you're gonna see last night moving a whole lot of poll numbers. I do think it made for some pretty good theater in that this is the largest Republican field in history, and we had the vast majority of them in one place.
Now, the other question I've got to ask is, did anybody look presidential and more presidential than the others?
Well, I will say that Jeb Bush and Scott Walker really stuck to their scripts. The people who really kind of took the questions and ran with them, I'd say, were the people you'd find at the bottom of the pack. Again, Jindal and Fiorina turning a lot of heads and had people talking in the hallways. I don't think it's going to be enough to move you up 10 spots in the polls, which is what they would have to do. But certainly a fresh look at some of the candidates.
Now, after this week, Brad, we've got this forum last night, and then there's Thursday night's debate on Fox News Channel. What happens then for these candidates? Are the ones who don't make it on TV on Thursday night, are they going to just drift away?
Well, they will tell you no, but sometimes it's not up to them. It's also up to donors who all of a sudden start giving money based on electability. And it's also about endorsements, right? Lawmakers are not going to endorse someone that ends up looking like a clown a few weeks later. So people will end up making their mind up for these candidates. I don't think it'll be just within the next few weeks. But certainly if you're hanging out there, number 16, number 17, like a Jim Gilmore or a Lindsey Graham, it's going to be tough to get some traction.
Yeah, so they really were shooting at two audiences last night. One, the public, to try to get some kind of recognition in the hopes that would move them up a place or two in the polls and maybe get them onto the national stage on Thursday night. But also those big super PACs and billionaires who underwrite all of our political campaigns now, because without that money, their campaigns are not going to last.
Appealing to them. And if you want to dive down even deeper, they were really playing to two publics. You had the national public, and then you had these early voting states. They were really trying to talk to Iowans and New Hampshireites because while the program was broadcast nationally on C-SPAN, several stations in both of those early voting states were allowed to pick it up and play it to their audiences.
Very interesting. Brad Melke, ABC News correspondent, live from New Hampshire this morning. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Coming up in the next half hour here on the Big 550, we'll talk about the judge who said yesterday, you do not get to vote on whether we get a new stadium in this town, a stadium that we will all have to contribute tax dollars to. David Hunn from the St. Louis Post-Dispatch has all the details on that and will join me in the next half hour on the Big 550 KTRS.